Hello YouTube, and welcome to a bit of a different Elder Scrolls lore video. Normally I make videos covering one single Elder Scrolls lore topic, but in this little bonus video I decided to cover a couple of smaller topics that simply don't have enough content to them to make a full video about them. I've done a lot of research over the years and I often came across small topics that I found extremely interesting, but that simply don't have enough meat on their bones. So let's today get into 5 of them. So, the first small subject that I wanted to cover is something that I discovered in the Elder Scrolls Blades back in the day. This game contains item descriptions for all items in the game, some of which contain lore. Now, when you look at the bronze bar item, its description says, long ago, smiths forged weapons and armors of bronze, but today it's used only to craft statues and other decorations. This little lore bit indicates that the Elder Scrolls universe had its own Bronze Age, and thus indicates that there were several stages of development in metallurgy. This seems obvious to our own universe, where we had the Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, etc. But in the Elder Scrolls universe it's not quite as obvious. Many people over the years have speculated that the Elder Scrolls society started out as relatively advanced due to their relation to the gods and various other speculated metaphysical reasons. It's even been speculated that the Elder Scrolls universe is sort of in digress and that they started really advanced and are getting less and less advanced. But yeah, this specific information written by Bethesda Game Studios themselves, because Elder Scrolls Blades was developed internally, contradicts this, indicating that there was indeed a Bronze Age and an age before the people of Nirn knew how to create steel or smelt iron, which in my opinion is really interesting. The second thing that I wish to talk about is the evolution of the emblem of the Empire through the ages. For the Septim and Mead Empire, their emblem has been the seal of Akatosh, the symbol most people know as the Imperial Dragon, or the logo of Skyrim on your desktop. This symbolizes the Empire's relation to Akatosh, at least back in the Third Era, when the Emperors were Dragonborn. During the reign of the Septim Emperors, the Emperors were Dragonborn as blessed by Akatosh. They were descendants of Saint Alessia, the first person to be blessed by Akatosh with the dragon blood, and who would go on to found the First Cyrodiilic Empire, or First Imperial Empire. The Emperors of this First Empire, and also the Second and Third Empire, who were all Dragonborn, could be identified by the Amulet of Kings, the legendary jewel bestowed upon Saint Alessia by Akatosh that only her Dragonborn descendants could wear, and that contained great power. During the First Empire founded by Alessia and the Second Empire founded by Riemann Cyrodiil, the Amulet of Kings was quite literally part of the Empire's emblem, as it was the Empire's emblem, which was displayed on every Imperial banner. And its rhombus shape was actually part of many other aspects of Imperial culture as well, such as on Imperial armor and in its architecture. During the Third Empire, founded by Tiber Septim and led by his heirs, the amulet also played a large role in signifying the true emperor, but unlike the First and Second Empire, the Amulet of Kings took a smaller role in the Empire's emblem, as the Tiber Septim made the seal of Akatosh the Empire's emblem. But as you can see, just there above the wings, the Amulet of Kings can still be seen on top of the Imperial seal. This version of the flag can be seen in Morrowind and Oblivion under the Empire's rule with the Septims at their head. Now in Skyrim, Blades and Legends, however, which are all taking place in the Fourth Era after the reign of the Septims, which ended with Martin's sacrifice, the Empire is ruled by the Mead dynasty, a dynasty of non-Dragonborn emperors. During this era, the Amulet of Kings is shattered and no longer part of the Empire's tradition, and as you can see on the Imperial banners of this era, the Amulet of Kings is no longer found on the Empire's emblem in the Fourth Era games. I also found this really interesting that they really, thought about removing that from the banner. The next thing that I want to talk about is the Guild Act of the Second Era. I've talked about this Imperial piece of legislation multiple times when talking about the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild in year 2 of the channel, but I've never really talked about the Guild Act itself as a topic, especially since it has some interesting implications. The Guild Act was legislation signed into law by the Akaviri potentate Versa Duché in the year 321 of the Second Era, during the potentate days of the Second Empire. This was when the Riemann dynasty had ended and their Akaviri potentates had taken over the rule. It's a period of several hundred years. This Guild Act officially sanctioned many guilds, including the Fighters Guild and Mages Guild as the most known examples and probably the most influential examples, but lesser known examples of guilds that got signed into existence with this Guild Act, or at least signed into official Imperial recognition, are the Tinkers Guild, the Cobblers Guild, the Scribes Guild, Architects Guild, Brewers Guild, Weavers Guild, Furriers Guild, Cooks Guild, Astrological Guild, Healers Guild, Tailors Guild and Minstrel Guild, but also more eccentric guilds like a Prostitute Guild and a Rat Catchers Guild. These guilds were all officially institutionalized by this law and got legal protections and facilities by the Empire. In exchange for that, the guilds would need to pay taxes to the Empire. This meant that the Empire could profit off the guilds and that the guilds got profit by being able to expand under Imperial law and having legal protection. The Guild Act also contained provisions to revoke guild benefits or completely oust a guild from the program if a guild did not behave according to Imperial law. This happened more than once temporarily to several guilds, including the Mages Guild. Alright, next is an interesting piece of lore added by the Antiquity system of the Elder Scrolls Online, where you can dig up antique objects and get pieces of lore about them. One of those antiquities is the Sorcerer King's Blade, a broken Aelid blade on an ancient Aelid pedestal. Other than it being one of my favorite decorations in the game, it's also a reference to the Elder Scrolls Blades, where during the main quest you find the ancient Aelid Sorcerer King Salamariel Lightbringer, who's come back from the dead. In his life, he was a powerful necromancer, conjuring the dead to fight for him, and who would in the past attempt to take over all of the Aelid kingdoms in Cyrodiil using necromancy, only to be stopped by his brother, the ancient Aelid Prince Valentis. If you want to know more about this, I have a video about the main story of the Elder Scrolls Blades. This antiquity, which is likely supposed to be Salamariel's blade, has a part of its lore that it has to do with minds and mortal wills, that it had that kind of spell on it. It's possible that this blade is talking about another Sorcerer King, but as far as we know, Salamariel is the only known Sorcerer King in current lore who has commanded the title of Sorcerer King. So I suspect that it's in fact the blade of Salamariel Lightbringer, the antagonist of the Elder Scrolls Blades. Especially so since the Antiquity system was made after Elder Scrolls Blades and Salamariel were created. So I suspect there's a link and that this is probably like a nod from the ESO developers. Anyway, it's a fun thing that I always wanted to make a video about, but I already did a video about Salamariel, so couldn't really paste it in there, so I'll paste it in here. The final thing that I wanted to talk about is another part of historical research in the Elder Scrolls universe. It is actually something really small, but something which at the time when I discovered it endlessly fascinated me. During the quest Echoes of a Fallen House in the Elder Scrolls Online, you find the journal of history scholar Navina Nerith. In her journal she mentions the following: "I must sound like a great fool to Tiris, always rambling on about the implications of some small fragment of Quama Shell's significance to the agrarian development of our early settlements." This is one of those lore bits signifying the technological and agrarian development of the races in the Elder Scrolls universe. This specific quote tells us that historical research into stuff like technological development and agrarian development is actually a legitimate field in the Elder Scrolls universe for research. And to be honest, if I were in the Elder Scrolls universe, like if I were just someone living in there, it's probably the thing that I would do research into. It also tells us that early Chimer settlements had to adapt to the Morrowind landscape and fauna. It might all sound obvious, but I don't know, I was endlessly fascinated by this quote, just over the fact that it specifically mentions agrarian development. Alright, those were 5 little things that I just didn't find any place to place in videos because it don't have any, real substance to them to dedicate their own video to. But perhaps in this format it works. Let me know what you think. Should I do more of these videos when I have more interesting little things that I want to share? Or not? I don't care. Do note that these do not replace their regular lore videos and that they will be released at random times in the middle of the week when they release, as I just work on my normal videos as usual. Anyway, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and of course a vocal mention to my top patrons, Bernardo Binda, Gabriel Binda and Mr. Christmas. These men, together with all the Patreon people on screen, keep the channel afloat, and for that I am very grateful. Anyway, I'm going to work on the next video for this weekend. See you all then.